Starting us out here, we see a promo ad for Quebec City Tourism, which ironically, but sadly, not unusually, is followed by a story about a completely unreasonable level of language intolerance in La Belle Province.
Stories told by the buildings, fortifications, and museums, boutiques that lights up with magic night after night. Ah, Quebec City. So Europe, so close.
Ah, Quebec City. So Europe, so close, and unfortunately run by a group of people who are so unreasonably intolerant.
A Montreal small business owner says he's fed up with Quebec's language police. Giancarlo Caltabiano says he feels like he has a target on his back. In 3 years, he's received 3 complaints from the OQLF. This latest one targets English board games. Tanya Kriviak has more.
When it comes to Quebec's language police, business owner Giancarlo Caltabiano doesn't mince his words.
Very black and white. It's either their way or no way.
In 3 years, he's received 3 complaints from the OQLF.
Let's take a moment to think really hard about the reality of what this really means, shall we? What this really means, or perhaps more poignantly, the shameful reality of all of this, is that perhaps 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 customers in 3 years, likely French-speaking customers, actually took the time to write up a formal complaint about the fact that the English language was somehow publicly visible in this store. A store, by the way, that is located in the province of Quebec, Canada. This person, or perhaps these 3 people, then took the time and made the effort to actually send this complaint to an office called, and yes, such an Orwellian entity actually does exist in this democratic country of ours in the year 2015, called the Quebec Office of the French Language.
And this latest one has him seeing red.
I'm getting really fed up.
ChezGeeks specializes in toys, board games, and collectibles. 80% of his board game stock comes from the U.S. So when a complaint targets an English-only ad for a new board game release, Giancarlo is taken aback.
Unfortunately, the board game is only in English, so we don't have a French equivalent. I can't put one up.
What's more, he finds out if he doesn't have a French version of the game, he can't sell the English one. And it's true.
The French version has to be available to be able to sell the product.
That, Giancarlo says, is simply ridiculous, in part because it hurts his bottom line. Besides, when there is a French version, he sells it. So if the OQLF decides to hit him with a fine, well,
I will close up shop. I would rather not give them a dime than stay here and live by their silly rules. For me, they're just silly.
Silly to this customer, too.
I think it's quite absurd because English is an international language.
Meantime, Giancarlo was also told to translate his website, something he can't afford to do.
I cannot have the description of every board game in French as well. There's about 10 new board games every week that's coming out.
So he'll take it down and worry about whether he's going to be able to stay in business here or move elsewhere.